nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, you can open your meeting whenever you're ready.
It being 6:57, I call the Board of Health meeting to order. Good evening.
Okay, great. First on the agenda is the joint meeting, let's see, with the Board of Health regarding the solid waste and recyclable materials collection, disposal, and processing contract invitation for bids for solid waste and recyclable materials. John, would you care to open the discussion about this RFP?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The town is seeking to go out to bid on a municipal solid waste and recycling materials collection, disposal, and processing contract and bid. It is called an invitation to bid. Normally, under circumstances, the solid waste bid contract and bidding is exempt from 30B to begin with. However, in order for us to generate a more ideal circumstance for a bid under municipal solid waste, we are going out to bid, and we will have to bid advertise in the newspapers and in the Central Register. The following time schedule for bidding is as follows. We are going to go out to bid on February 9th. We are going to have questions concerning the IFP come back on February 23rd.
You have it? No?
We want to have the same page. I'd like to have the same page as it. Just refer.
We are going out to bid on February 9th with the February 23rd return for questions that are going to come back to the town manager's office on any aspect of the IFP. And on March 1st at 10 a.m. on Thursday, the bids will be open. The invitation for bid is for solid waste and recycled materials collection, disposal, and processing. Contained in the RFP, or RFB, would be curbside collection, transportation to disposal facility, disposal of municipal solid waste, curbside recycling collection, collection and processing of white goods, processing of municipal recycling, collection, transportation, and disposal of solid waste and recycling at the schools and municipal buildings. This contract and this bid does not cover the current units for condos. There are approximately 703 condo units in the town of Abington. For some reason, we have been collecting 208 of the 703 units. The issue for us migrating to curbside collection is that each of the condominium complexes currently do not receive snowplow removal services. The streets are unaccepted public ways. They're not public ways. They're unaccepted streets, and so consequently, they're not built to public way standards. And as a result of that, the trucks would not be able to access in a manner necessary to achieve the curbside collection method that I am going to explain to you. The curbside collection method in this particular case is automated curbside collection of both recycling and municipal solid waste. The town is going to be proposing a two-barrel collection method, one 64-gallon container for trash, and one 64 or 96-gallon container for recycling. The more you recycle, the more you can fit into your 64-gallon container. Currently, there are 3 barrels, 32 barrels each, 32 gallons each at curbside. We are proposing to go to essentially 2 32-barrel containers in one 64-gallon container, which would be automated. The automated collection process is used in a number of communities in many large cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Locally, those curbside collection at automation is offered in a modified basis in the town of, locally in the town of Mansfield, which is a community that I had worked in for a number of years. We started this process back in, I believe it's been 10, almost 11 years. That method has proved to be very successful in the town of Mansfield. We also offer it in Sharon. They also offer it in Dedham. They also offer it in, I believe, Newton, and many of the large cities in the area. The reason why this system is so successful is that there are it's a 2-barrel system. In this bid contract, this bid, the RFP that we have and we're offering, has a second barrel that can be purchased for the cost of the cart and the sticker. And the sticker will cover the entire cost for disposal for the second barrel. We currently spend a little over $1 million for curbside trash collection. We had 2 overrides, and both overrides were to provide for a method of collection without specification at curbside. In other words, the residents of this community want to keep trash in the rate. In order for us to continue to keep trash in the rate in the future, we are going to need to change the current method of collection. And the reason for that is very simple. The average municipal tonnage for curbside collection across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is on average of 1 ton per household. In the town of Abington, our tonnage is approximately 1.58 tons a household, which we have 4,016 units of housing. We take 6,712.37 tons, multiply that by 80 tons, and we come up with approximately $536,989 in tonnage alone. If we divide 4,016 units into, plus the 208 units into the tonnage number, we come up with approximately 1.58 tons a household. That average is about 0.58 tons, half a ton greater than any of the communities on average throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The system is inefficient. It's costing us, at least, in my opinion, and based on information that we have from communities such as Mansfield, where they have been able to cut their tonnage by 2,000 tons, that system, the system we're currently using today, is costing the town an additional $160,000 in tonnage fees. And the reason for that is that on a night like tonight, or in a day where there is rain or snow, municipal solid waste or curbside collection can be extremely costly in rain events, where rain tends to weigh down the tonnage, causing a higher tonnage tipping fee for that particular day. The barrels that we are talking about are 64-gallon containers. They have lids that pull over, and those lids save the town money, along with the fact that the actual barrels themselves, for both collection at curbside, automated for trash and recycling, actually will allow us to save money in tonnage. What other items we're actually adding to the contract are curbside collection for brush, which we don't currently collect, and Christmas trees, which we don't currently collect. Now, in the municipal budget for FY13, we have both items listed in the health budget. The ownership of the materials and the recycling materials are property of the town of Abington. That is different from the current contract. The current contract indicates that the ownership of the materials are owned by the contractor at curbside pickup. And as a result of that, we end up spending, I think, some additional money. And the reason why I say that is that the vendor is collecting $80 a ton for our waste at curbside and depositing it wherever he can get a good deal. Now, that's perfectly legal, and he can do that. In my opinion, he is probably collecting or disposing of our waste at approximately $75 to $76 a ton, which leaves a $4 tonnage fee excess that he's collecting on each ton of waste disposed in the town of Abington. 4,016 units of housing between 1 and 3 family units, plus the 208 units that we currently collect condos, is a considerable amount of tonnage with respect to the town. What we are proposing in this automated trash collection is to reduce tonnage by approximately 2,000 tons by collecting it in a 2-barrel system at curbside. I went through this whole entire contract with the Board of Health probably 3 to 4 weeks ago. We went through each page of the contract and each page of the RFP. Now, I knew that the vote that was taken was not to pick up condos. That vote, well, I believe, was 3-2. I know that there was some uneasiness with respect to members of the Board of Health because they wanted a two-method, they wanted to go out twice for collection, to have 2 different RFPs, or to have different choices. The choice for this particular aspect, this particular project, rests with the administration, with the Board of Health as elected officials, and the town manager as the chief procurement officer. When the Board of Health went from an unlimited number of barrels at curbside to 3, they didn't go to town meeting. They didn't seek out other opinions from residents. They just implemented the change. I believe that this method of collection, because I have worked with it, is the most efficient method of collection. Now, there's a reason why the Board of Health perhaps desires to continue with the same method, or provide, or to go to town meeting and have their decision rendered by town meeting. Town meeting is an appropriating body. They do not decide on what program of service is provided. It's really not town meeting's decision. Now, the reason why we need to go to this method is that if we can save $160,000, we can use that money in other areas of the budget, or we can return it to the residents. Now, that is a decision that town meeting should make, not what type of program for curbside collection we are going to offer to the residents. That is an administrative decision, and a decision that rests with the Board of Health and the town manager as a chief procurement officer. I have provided the board with an opinion that was rendered by counsel, Mark Rich, that basically said that that decision is really a decision that is left up to the chief procurement officer. And if the chief procurement officer decides that he wants to assign the management of the program to the Board of Health, then he has the authority under charter to do so. Why are we here today? We are here because on January 17th, the Board of Health took a vote to not recommend the RFP as it was currently presented. I spent 2.5 hours with the Board of Health going over each page. During that process, we had also incorporated their changes in the RFP as they wanted it. And I see Terry shaking her head over there. But I will tell you that I spent a considerable amount of time, which you can't deny I did, with the Board of Health, going over this RFP. Now, in my opinion, their decision is not in the best interest of the town. If we can save $160,000, why are we going to offer an alternative to this RFP that has been proven not to reduce tonnage, not to reduce costs, but to keep those costs where they currently are? Now, if I went to the board of the Finance Committee and I asked the Finance Committee, this is a great program. We like the contractor. We want to keep them. Even if it's going to cost us an additional $160,000, we should do it. I don't believe that we should do it. I believe that that contract is costing the town at least $160,000, if not more, than what we need to pay for curbside collection. And I would venture to guess that if we were to adopt the automated trash collection method that we have outlined here in this RFP. Now, the Board of Health also received a grant to hire a consultant to help us work on this contract and this RFP. Dan Balboni. A number of years he has spent in, I believe, the trash collection industry. He's looked at the Mansfield numbers, as has at least one member of the Board of Health, Arlene. And she has spoken to people who have this service in Mansfield. And they came back, and I guess, I know, but she came back with the same conclusion, which was that the program works, it reduces tonnage, it saves money, and the residents like it. So I guess the question for me is, why is there so much resistance from the Board of Health with respect to this RFP? If it can save the town money, it should be something that we would all gather around, support, and put forth as a plan and a program in this community. The way the structure of government is currently organized, the Board of Selectmen and elected boards and committees are elected for the purpose of making decisions. Not passing those decisions off to citizens, not politicalizing the RFP process, but taking a leadership role and ensuring that the decisions that we are making are in the best interest of the town. What I would like to go through in the RFP, because we spent a tremendous amount of time and effort on this RFP, is how this is going to be administered, the manner and definitions that we are using for the contract itself, how the recycled materials are going to be collected in what we consider to be commingled containers and mixed paper, and what type of facilities are considered municipal and school facilities, and the fact that we're not picking up condos as of July 1st, 2012. I did mention to the Board of Health at that time that I would sit down with all of the condo owners and work with them and the contractor to come up with a favorable rate for all condominium users. Now, for some strange reason, in this community, we decided some time ago that we were going to pick up 208 units of the 703. In my discussions with council, he felt that that type of an approach would open the town up to a potential lawsuit from units, condominium units, that were not being picked up. And why pick up for some and not for all? And that leaves us, I think, and council believes, in a very vulnerable situation as it relates to a lawsuit from condo units that we are not picking up from. Now, that hasn't happened, but the possibility exists that it could. And we should not, as elected or appointed officials, be making decisions that would put the town in potential legal liability down the road. That's our responsibility, is to protect the town from those types of decisions. So if I can cull from my meeting, the meeting that I was at, where I sat with the board and went through the RFP and answered all of their questions, the concerns that I think the board was, in their minutes, were concerned about was the fact that the
Mr.
town
Chairman.
manager was making that decision.
Can we let the Board of Health respond to some of these, or maybe find out what their concerns are?
He's not finished yet.
We've heard this whole thing at the last meeting, it was on TV then too.
I'll stop.
Let him finish. Are you done?
No, I'll stop.
Okay.
I'll
Does
stop.
anyone have any questions?
I have some questions regarding the RFP, but I'd rather hear what the Board of Health has to say as far as the process goes.
And the concerns, if they have any concerns over the RFP, or the whatever we're calling it.
I guess, my name is Robert Manning, I'm the chairman of the Board of Health. I'm a citizen of the town of Abington. Mr. D'Agostino has pretty much covered everything as he sees his facts and figures, and for the most part, I won't disagree with anything he has to say. But I am an elected board member of the town of Abington, and I'm elected by the citizens of the town of Abington. And I'm sorry, but I disagree, that if I am not the voice of the people, I don't know who is. People elected me to this office, I'm supposed to represent their best interest. I believe I have the right to represent the people's best interest when it comes to any issues with the trash. I believe we have the right to defend the citizens of this town against anything that we feel as individual members of the board are not in the best interest of the town. I beg to differ with Mr. D'Agostino to find any single document where anything is said that the Abington Board of Health would not support his IFP. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. It is called an IFP, not an RFP.
And it's called an invitation for bid.
And you did make clarification to Mark Rich, so he made sure that we should not use the word RFP, we should use IFP.
That's correct.
Correct, okay. So I just want to point out, this is an IFP, and John made that clear to us the night he came to talk to us, that we should call this an IFP, not an RFP. Okay. As a duly elected member of the Abington Board of Health, I serve in the best interest of the citizens of the town of Abington. I was voted in by the people of the town of Abington, and I believe I have the right to defend their interest on the Board of Health. Mr. D'Agostino, unlike Mr. D'Agostino, I also live in this town and pay taxes in this town. Mr. D'Agostino has stated that, and he has repeated in several occasions, as town manager, he is the chief procurement officer, and as such has the final say on contractual obligations for the town. I don't disagree with that at all. I agree with that 100%. I have no problem with that. My issue with Mr. D'Agostino at this time is not so much about what he's proposed, about how he went about it. I, as an individual member of the Board of Health, do not remember ever being inquired by Mr. D'Agostino for any input in what this trash contract would be. Yet I, as a member of this Board of Health, would be asked to manage it and enforce it if implied. I believe, in good faith, if the town manager was a I don't know how you want to word this, a team player, that at least I'd be consulted in some way, shape, or form of what would be involved in an IFP proposed that the trash budget and the Abington Board of Health would be asked to manage. But I was not. I agree with John when he said that the Abington Board of Health agent, Sharon White, did get us a grant to help us write this contract. And I believe that, I forget his name, Dan Balboni, worked with John and Sharon to write this IFP. And they did a lot of work and a lot of effort was put into it. I don't disagree with that at all. The creation of IFP, my disagreement with the IFP was simply more of a discretion that no other options were presented to the Board of Health when John presented his, and I don't mean you specifically, John, but the IFP presented by the town manager.
Understood.
I am not pointing at you, sir. Okay? I am pointing at the document of the trash budget. That when John presented the IFP, we were not provided with a selection of choice. Was there other ways to look at it? Now, John has made it clear that the current trash contract is not very successful. Well, I'm not saying it's not successful, but I am saying this, that in the last 4 months, from July to October, we have reduced the tonnage in this town by 294 tons, and we've increased the recycling by 52 tons. John made a statement to the fact that a year ago, in January, the Board of Health made a change to the regulation and changed the trash, for unlimited trash, to 3 barrels, and also went to a sticker program. I don't disagree that we didn't go in front of them, but the reason why that was occurred is because, once again, as in the last 4 years or 5 years in a row, our trash budget has been cut each and every year when brought before the town. And every year we have to manage around whatever budget I am given. That's my charge. I have to work with it. At the time, Ken Coyle was the chairman, and Ken Coyle came to us and said, we need to deal with this, and we did. We came up with a proposal, we worked at it, and we reduced the number of trash barrels that the town would take in. We made changes to extra baggage being collected, and we have done that and enforced that, and we put that out there. So we did make changes to the trash. No, we didn't give them the town, but we voted in the best interest of the town based on what what we had, I apologize, what we had for a figure to work with to make sure that we could meet our guideline and our financial responsibility. I don't believe that the Board of Health took a vote not to support the IFP. I believe the Board of Health interest was to take a vote against the fact that we had no choice. And the choice is presented to us as members of the Board of Health to make a decision on what's the best interest of the town to go forward. I am not saying that IFP that John has proposed is not in the best interest of the town. I made that clear to John in an email, did I not, John?
You did.
Okay, I made it very clear to him what my opinion of what the vote was and what was said that night. And I said to him in that memo, I do not believe the board was not supporting the IFP. I believe the board was voting against not having an option or options to look at. I did not hear from John after I sent that email out. I've never heard from you via an email regarding that comment to John since I sent that email. I do understand that John said that in several emails that have been going around, that if we don't implement this contract, that we don't have enough time to go forward with another proposal, whether it's an RFP or an IFP, given the time element that we have left. So the only option would be to implement a pay-as-you-throw program. Is that not correct? If we did not put out this bid, we would have to go to a pay-as-you-throw program, given the fact that our trash contract ceases to exist as of July 1st of this year.
Or you can continue with the existing contract.
Do we have the option to extend that contract? Do you have the option to extend that contract? I don't have that option anymore.
Well, you always have that option, but let me ask you this question. If you know that the current contract that we have is costing us money, and that we have an option that would save us money, whether you like the option or you don't like the option, or you want additional options, there's only 2 ways that you can pick up trash. The way you're currently picking it up, or through an automated system.
Well,
There's no other choice.
I will say this to you, John. There's always other choices. I don't know what
Well,
you
then
call
tell me
other
what they
choices, what
are.
I call other choices. We can argue back and forth all night. All I'm saying is that the reason why I believe the Board of Health has a problem with this document and this event was the fact, one, I don't believe we were ever asked to participate in the creation or what other options were available to look at to do a cost comparison. Now, I know the cost comparison for this contract and the current contract. You are using figures from the town of Mansfield, guesstimates at best. They may be exact for Mansfield, but we don't know what they'll be exact for Abington. I would be very careful at using a figure of $160,000 savings, whether it's this year or next year. I don't see it. I believe that the town...
What are you basing those figures on?
I am basing the figures on what you just said. You just said the town of Mansfield saved $160,000 in 22,000 tons.
They reduced their tonnage by 2,000 tons.
So I'm just using the figures that you said.
Right, and if the tonnage is $80 a ton, that's $160,000.
But you and I both know that it
2,000
won't be
tons.
$80 a ton going forward, no matter what contract we went with, because we're looking at other options to bring that cost down. We were looking at the South Shore Collaborative to join 54 other communities to bring the cost of that down even more. We don't know what the total end-up cost is going to be over the next 4 years. We just know what you're dealing with right now, sir.
South Shore Collaborative would require you to bid this out individually.
Excuse me one second.
What's the matter, Terry?
I'm just curious why you can continually interrupt the chairman of the Board of Health while he's trying to make a statement, and we were not allowed to
I'll let
speak
you,
when you were
because
speaking.
he's not making truthful or
He
accurate
is making
statements.
very truthful.
Whoa, hey. We're not turning this into
He
a
is
circus.
making very
Terry,
truthful
Terry,
statements.
listen. Bob, no one interrupted Bob, okay? Let Bob finish.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not here to fight. That's not my desire nor my intent.
So,
I'm going to simply say this. The Board of Health was not consulted or asked to contribute in the research of this option that the town manager came up with. The town manager made it clear to me, I can't speak for everybody else, a year ago when we sat and talked about it, that he would like to go to this option in the next contract. I would have liked to have seen at least a variable selection of what else we could have done, whether it's another trash contractor or another variable, besides just saying that this was the only option I have to vote on, if I have to vote on something. So, I really don't speak in lies too often, John. And if I do, I'm the first to apologize. To be accused of saying some misfortunes and lies, I would not want to go out there and say that. So I will use your emails and your words, so I don't misconstrue or mislead anybody. And I quote from a letter that you wrote to Margaret Devlin, one of the members of the Board of Health, on January 22nd. You stated, "I will not move forward. In my opinion, you, the Board of Health, are not acting in the best interest of the town. These actions undermine my position. I will not move forward, and you, the Board of Health, can explain to the town why I will not have an extra $160,000 to spend on school programs or other programs to restore the budget that was devastated in previous years." You don't know you're going to have $160,000 in 2 years. You can't prove that to me. But you said it in an email that that's what we're going to have. So I'm not making that line up. I'm reading your words, sir.
It's correct.
Okay, so I don't believe I've lied at all, and I'm going to finish my statement if you don't mind. I am an elected official in this town, and I represent the townspeople, John. And if you don't like my opinion, I understand that. You don't have to, but I have one. And I don't have to support you and your IFP as far as the contents of it. I never have said that I would not support your IFP. I simply said I disagreed in the methodology by which we came to that decision. You don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it, and you don't have to circle around the circle in wagons and whatever you need to do to call for it. I am not unsupporting of your IFP. I am simply asking that I would have liked to have seen other options as the one group that has to manage this contract. I wasn't given that. I have the right to make that statement, and I believe that's the statement I'm making. Arlene, do you have anything to say? Terry, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I do. If my voice quivers, it's because I'm passionate about this. I thought after being on FinCom for 9 years toughened me up to handle just about anything. I had to make decisions I did not fully support. I took opposing opinions when I thought it was proper. Then I thought, because I was the liaison to the Board of Health for so many of those years, and I advocated for the Board of Health, that I could contribute to the important issues, like the compost site, like recycling, like ready preparedness. I seek to understand. I respect the opinions of others. I believe in representative government. I will stand for what I believe in. And as an elected official, that is my job. I need to ask the questions. Well, I watched the Selectmen's meeting and the town manager's speech. Thank you to Kenny for defending our character. I found it despicable. This is my interpretation of the RFP, IFP, IFB, whatever you want to call it today, process as it was presented to the Board of Health. The health agents notified the board that we had received a grant to get someone to help us write the RFP, and that's what it was called at that time. It was revealed at this meeting that this person was a former employee of Waste Management, and I did raise the issue about a possible conflict of interest, and I was assured that that was not the case. The town manager Monday night alluded that the Board of Health had paid for this service. He had corrected that statement tonight. Thank you. I was under the impression it was a grant and that we did not pay for it out of the town. That was corrected.
It was always a grant.
That was corrected. That was not what you said on Monday. Between the time the first RFP was emailed to us and our meeting to discuss the RFP turned into an IFP, and now it's an IFB.
It's always been an IFB.
My first objection, but clearly not a show-stopping objection, was reducing the amount of holidays. That reduction included Veterans Day. I was told most companies already treat Veterans Day as a floating holiday. My comment was, so we're down one more, forget Veterans Day? Again, it's a comment, not a showstopper. My next objection was excluding the condos that have been grandfathered. I was not part of the board at that time, nor do I know what the elected board decision-making process was at the time. I do recall who our town council was. Our town council was Sean Cotter. Sean Cotter was very careful in writing his recommendations. This is where we are today. My comment to the condos losing their trash was, so the people who have historically had their trash picked up are no longer going to have trash available to them on July 1st. I asked the town manager who was going to tell these people this, and the town manager said, the Board of Health will. I said, no, you will. It was your idea. Please understand, we have been clearly informed that we are not part of this process.
That's not true.
My greatest objection and the sole reason I do not support the IFP, and I stress as presented, is threefold. The process the previous Board of Health put in last year is just that, 1 year old. It would be irresponsible to base any analysis on the first year of a new plan, considering our weather conditions. I believe this year-old process can work. I have faith in the townspeople that they will do the right thing. I continually encourage more outreach to educate in recycling. As a member of SAGE, I take opportunities at Abington Cares for the Earth Day, the farmers markets, and my occasional visits to the compost site to talk to the townspeople about the importance of recycling and how a simple cover on a barrel can be very cost-effective. At the last SAGE meeting, we did discuss having some high school students do a recycling show. In fact, we were considering maybe taking a typical bag of trash and showing people what can actually be recycled. People need to be educated, not punished.
No one's punishing anybody.
Number 2, the cost of the barrels. We were quoted by the town barrels that these barrels are roughly $52, $53.
58.
We will all be assigned a barrel for trash and a barrel for recycling. They will have a nice little number on it identifying the household. If the barrel is broken, I have been told the company will replace it. I'm still not sure if that's free of charge. That was not clear to me.
It's in the
What
RFP.
happens if the barrel is stolen? Does the company replace that as well, free of charge? The town manager said the town will have paid for the barrels in the first year. So for argument's sake, I had 4,200 households, so it's slightly different. This is what my math is based on. We have 4,200 households, times 2 barrels, which is $52. That comes out to $436,000, nearly $500,000 in the initial barrel expense. I question the actual cost of the barrels for another reason. The municipalities I have asked have mentioned that the cost of these barrels are upwards of $90.
That's
I have heard
false.
the horror stories of these barrels being stolen and the hidden cost. This is why I'm not convinced. I seek to understand. I am not convinced. It is disingenuous for the town manager to make accusations and insinuations he has with regard to the Board of Health's decision. These are the basics I took away from our meeting with him. The Board of Health doesn't make this decision. Taxpayers have no choice. It is either automated or pay as you throw. And of course, the town manager mentioned that trash collection doesn't fall under that 30B, so we're putting out an invitation for bid, not the historical used method of a request for proposal. The barrage of emails have left me feeling bullied by an individual who did not seek to understand before accusing the Board of Health of the following: not wanting to save the town $2,000 in tonnage. That's silly. Not wanting to save $160,000 for the town. That is even sillier. Using draft minutes to insinuate a double negative. Not expressing our concerns to him while he was at our meeting. I invite the selectmen to listen to the tapes. We did not go line by line on another thing. We did not go line by line on the proposal. As members of the Board of Health, we did our homework, we brought our questions, and we asked those questions.
Were they answered?
Not fully.
That is a lie.
We can't even begin to, I can't even
I
begin,
answered
and this is where I might quiver.
I answered those
I can't even
questions.
begin to address what I saw as a despicable temper tantrum laced with subterfuge and innuendo last Monday night. We were accused by the town manager of not being leaders. I didn't understand being a leader was following lockstep with what the town manager suggests, regardless of what I feel is right. I had to cancel a doctor's appointment tonight to be at this meeting. I think that shows leadership. I care about my responsibilities. I take my responsibilities seriously. I'd also like to say this is Abington and not Mansfield. Thank you.
I want to clarify a couple of things. Number one, I will be in disagreement with Terry. I do believe John answered all of our questions. Whether they were complete or not, he answered the questions. There's no doubt in my mind, any question was asked, he answered. And I'm also going to admit, and I'd like to bring this to the attention of everyone who was present. As John has done, he did send you out a copy of the draft minutes of our meeting. I believe you've sent both out, John, or just one of the minutes? Did
There
you
was
send
only
both of them
one.
out to the Board of
I only had
Selectmen?
one page of the minutes
Okay, and those were distributed to the selectmen?
as
Okay.
draft.
I'm looking at a copy of the draft of the minutes from the January 17th meeting, and it's not my proudest moment in the world, but at the bottom of that meeting, it states that, Bob states, for the presentation of the IFP that was presented to the board, viewed and updated, they will take a vote, they will take a yea or nay vote in support of the members of the Board of Health. And there's a period after that. And after that, there is a vote of the 5 members of the board, which in that statement was 1 in the positive and 4 in the negative. I don't believe that's a vote in disapproval of the IFP. I don't believe anyone can prove to me that's a vote of the disapproval of IFP. I'm not proud of that vote. I'm not proud of the wording of that vote. I'm speaking as chairman of the board, telling you that I'm not proud of that, but I don't believe in any way, shape, or form anyone can tell me that I voted for or didn't vote for an IFP in that statement. It may not have been worded correctly, John.
Right.
The implication, the implied reasoning behind it may be there, but I don't believe in factual proof. When you heard from the Board of Health agent that we had not approved your IFP, had you gone ahead and got a copy of our minutes of that meeting, as you did eventually, and read them, and you did draw your conclusions, and I understand that, and you're welcome to it, and I can draw my conclusions. But I don't think we would have had to go through anything. I don't know what other members of this board, I speak for myself now, not for the other members of this board. I disagree with you. I didn't have another agenda. I believe I had my own agenda, which was the right to represent the people of this town and defend their interests to the best of my ability. I believe that's why I ran for this office. And I also believe this, John, that if I choose to, because this is my re-election year, and if I choose to run for re-election, it's the people of this town that will either vote me in or vote me out. So come May 1st, if they didn't like what I did, they'll vote me out. If they did, they'll vote me back in. And if they did, I'll be back for 3 more years.
And
I'll take any questions from anyone, thank you.
Yeah, and well, let me just respond to a couple of things. First of all, this town hired a town manager and established a town manager form of government because they wanted somebody who could lead and had some experience in certain aspects. I've been in this business 30 years. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I respect elected officials. What I don't respect is stretching the truth, as was eloquently stretched to the nth degree tonight, not by you, Mr. Manning. I'd like to hear from some other members of the Board of Health and what they feel about this RFP, and not the attacks in relationship to the RFP, because what I've heard tonight means that no one is really against doing automated trash collection. I can send this RFP out, or I can say, forget about it. You guys feel passionate about choices, you come up with the choices. I will tell you this. I have spent countless hours with your staff person going over the RFP. I have spent countless hours with Dan Balboni going over the RFP, okay? Now, whether you believe that there is a conflict of interest or not, there really isn't, but it's a good cloud of smoke in relationship to trying to cut through the facts. This isn't the first time that there have been reversals on decisions that were made with boards that Terry has sat on. So I don't take this as something that is unusual. It's happened before. I would have wanted to have been at that meeting on the 17th. I wasn't invited. I wasn't invited to that meeting because I would have liked to have provided or answered additional questions that you had. There are 2 choices that you have in relationship to curbside collection. Well, you have more. You can go to pay as you throw, and we know that the taxpayers and the townspeople do not want that. They voted twice for a trash override, and what they are really interested in is a more efficient program that can be kept within the tax rate. That's why they voted for the 2 overrides. Now, Mansfield is not Abington. I know that there are 2 separate communities, but I will tell you that you can only draw conclusions based on experience, actual experience, that other communities have realized. The Department of Environmental Protection came down, looked at the Mansfield program in its second year of operation, and labeled it a model program for other communities to follow who didn't want to go to pay-as-you-throw and weren't satisfied with an inefficient curbside collection program that you have implemented in this town. I didn't implement this. The easiest thing for me to do is to say, like Phil Warren probably, do what you want. I'm going to have the last say, but do as you want. I came to your meeting. I spent 2.5 hours discussing with you, maybe not line item by line item, but certainly page by page, because we went over every page of this document, and you added certain things that you thought were necessary to add, and we added them. I walked away from that meeting with the clear understanding in my mind that the board was satisfied with what we had. Now, I don't know when the agenda was established for your meeting, Mr. Manning,
Yes, sir.
but it's my understanding that the vote issue was put on late in the process. Now, that's what I've heard. I don't know that to be certain as far as the agenda and the formulation of that agenda on the 17th. I am not elected to this town, but I am appointed to this town. And it is my responsibility to make certain that the residents of this community have a program that they can be proud of. If you go, I don't know who you have spoken to where barrels are stolen, but I don't believe that you've done the research that is necessary or the research that Arlene has done regarding this program. And I commend Arlene, because Arlene did a lot of work on this. And she is probably the most learned advocate for this type of program. She's actually talked to people. She's actually visited and done her homework. And I commend her, because that is obviously a responsibility that you as elected officials have. So if anyone can tell me who they spoke to from any community, Terry or Bob, I'd be more than happy to confirm those discussions on your behalf, because I don't think it really happened.
Well, number one, I want to stop you right there. I never accused that I had spoken to any other community saying that those words never came out of my mouth, John. I don't believe tonight or any night.
I am
You were
directing my
directing to
comment
somebody else, but you
to...
used my name.
Right.
I apologize, but that was my name. I'm going
Right.
to defend my name.
Well,
I
I'm
never
asking
accused
you, did you actually, well, you said,
John,
I don't believe you're going to save
John,
$160,000.
That's not true, John. I'm saying.
Hey, hold on, listen.
But you
Let's not-
said that.
Let's, listen, we're getting a little off topic.
You said we
Okay.
weren't going, you doubted that we
We're
could
getting
save
off topic. We could play,
$160,000.
Did I shut up?
hold on, we can play tennis
I don't
all
want to play
night.
tennis.
I'm not, listen, I'm not wearing a black and white striped shirt, okay?
Yeah,
We're gonna
never mind.
get something done, I'm just gonna get out of here, okay? I'm not doing this. Listen, we're here because obviously a month ago, you guys met. Everyone seemed to be in agreement that this was the IFP, RFP. This is the way that, this is the direction we wanted to go. Something happened in the meantime. You guys changed your mind. We want to know why you changed your mind. Now, you're saying that you had no problem with the contract, you had a problem with lack of choice. Based on what Terry had to say tonight, clearly she has a problem with the automated system, okay? We're looking for your direction. What concerns do you have? We're looking for your input.
What concerns do I have?
Yeah, we need to get
If
an
there's- if
RFP
there's
out
no-
in March. We want to know, as selectmen, you're the Board of Health, we're looking for your input one more time.
Can I just
Go ahead,
say
Mike.
something? And I don't want to hear any more going back and forth. It is a tennis match, Chris, you're absolutely right. I read the emails, I easily could have printed them out, I easily could have put mark slots underneath them and said, well, this meant it, take it out of context, all right? I recognize you're good people, you're serving a lot of your time and stuff like that. I talked to Mr. Manning, I think it was Sunday evening, about how we can resolve some of these issues. It was my motion that brought us here tonight. And about 15 minutes ago, I was really regretting that had happened, because we're making it far too personal. If we're actually sitting here for the best interest of the people of Abington, we have a problem. It is not a big problem. You people have some questions, obviously, in listening to what you said. If we can't get those questions answered, and they don't seem to be big questions, and then what confuses me a little bit, you had your health agent writing this document with Mr. Balboni, and then it came about as somewhat of a surprise, that you know, I mean, and it probably did. It surprises me that happened, that we didn't, you know, there wasn't more discretion in your board, or, you know, this is how we're going, and stuff like that, or update, so to speak. How do we move on from here? If we can't get your questions answered, and I do agree, and the reason I called Mr. Manning as a former moderator, I do believe in the floor of town meeting that something as complicated as this document should not be hashed out. It should be hashed out in a room like what we have here tonight. And so I would think that between the Finance Committee, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, if we could reach a consensus, and we might not agree, but that's what we should put forward. So my recommendation would be, if we have some problems and some issues, and you people don't support it for the right reasons, then that's the vote that should be taken. But if we come to the conclusion that we do agree, and I have had some very lively discussions with the town manager over different issues, and this being one of them. I have accounts that I service up in Mansfield. I have talked to them. I haven't done extensive, but those people, to a person, were happy with it. So I don't necessarily want to throw everything under the bus, and I know you guys have some genuine concerns. Can we, my question would probably be, can we get those questions answered in a timely fashion to get this out, or whatever you want to put out? How do we resolve the issues? How do we get there? Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry, I'm not Mr. Chairman.
Are you all set?
Go ahead, Arlene, go ahead.
I just want to say quickly, I don't think that anybody expected any other option. I think John made it pretty clear a year ago that this is what he wanted. And I went on, after I spoke to other towns, and he's right, they're all happy with it. I didn't write down numbers and everything else, I just spoke with people, looked at a few numbers. Our numbers have been up and down even since February. February was the lowest month. That was the first month of the change. I remember reading articles in the paper about how people were shocked at their own ability to recycle. How they couldn't believe that, I think one was a family of 10, she was looking for more stickers because she was able to recycle so much. So I know that this is the way to go, because you have to force people to recycle. I don't want to manipulate people, but I know what you, like you said, if you only have 64 gallons to put your actual trash in, you have to recycle. It's the law, you can't throw away recyclable materials. It's unenforceable because who's going to go through the trash? So this is another way to handle that law. But I don't think this IFP or whatever it is a shock to anybody. We all knew what it was coming. And Sharon, you know, we didn't go over it, we weren't able to participate, but I don't know anything about writing one, so I wouldn't know what to ask for anyway. We put it up, we gave it to Dan to handle, and to Sharon and John. So I don't think it was a shock when we got it. And I'm for it because I think it's the right thing to do. You have 4,000 whatever households, maximum they're going to throw away every week is 64 gallons. You can calculate what your bill's going to be, not wait and see what comes from the hauler every month.
Thanks. Kenny?
I think, I was going to say basically what Arlene just said. From day one, the first week that John was the town manager, he came into a Board of Health meeting when I was the chairman, and he said, I want to change it to automated waste collection. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, and I know Sharon must have kept the board updated as to what was going on. So, I mean, my biggest question is there a serious issue with automated waste collection that the Board of Health feels that we should not go forward with? Because I did a lot of research myself, a little bit back then, but a lot today, and I came up with nothing but advantages without even talking about any cost savings. No cost savings at all, but just if you drive through Mansfield and you see the way the town looks, and you drive through Abington, even if you drive through Abington versus Rockland, and then drive through Mansfield, it's crazy how great it looks. Everything is uniform, the same barrel, there's no overflowing, there's no open trash, there's no blowing trash. And John made a good point about the weight. You see the fluctuations in the tonnage when there's snow and rain. It's crazy. When we had the flooding, that month where it flooded, the figures were the highest they've ever been. That's all because everything gets softened with water, and it just sucks everything up, and it really, there's the lids that stay shut. Squirrels are not going to, I have serious problems with trash barrels and squirrels. I don't know if everybody else does, but residents no longer have to buy trash barrels. I mean, I go through 4 trash barrels. I have gray all over where I keep my trash barrels because the squirrels gnaw holes in them. It's ridiculous, you know. And the tin ones, when you put them out, they're going to get banged up because no matter how careful the people are from Waste Solutions and other haulers, the wind blows them, they get banged, they get put out, and the lid gets lost in the first week, guaranteed. The lids are attached to these. So these are issues that, not even talking about the cost savings, but you're not going to have overflowing barrels, no elements, no smell, animal proof. The toters are strong, and they actually, they're big, but they maneuver very well because they've got big wheels, and you're no longer, you know, I come home from the Board of Health meeting, the Selectmen's meeting, oh Jesus, you know, I'm going to go back to I come out of the Selectmen's meeting, I had to put my trash out, and I'm dragging barrels at 10 o'clock at night down the driveway because they're heavy.
They're full of squirrels.
And they're full of squirrels. I've seen some floating squirrels, we won't talk about that, but in all seriousness, I would just like to hear from the Board of Health if they have a serious problem with the automated waste collection. I know they have a serious problem with the way the whole thing was done, but will this work for Abington? That's my question.
I think it will.
Just to even further back up what Mike and Kenny said, I was on the search committee for the town manager, and when we interviewed John initially, one of the first things he talked about was bringing this system to Abington. When the Board of Selectmen did their interviews in public, one of the first things he mentioned was bringing this system to Abington. So the fact that he is trying to bring this system to Abington really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But I would like to know, I think what we're here for tonight is to see if there are concerns that we can all work together to a resolution and move forward. And we've been here now for an hour, and we haven't even gotten to that point yet. So if there's concerns that anybody has, then let's get them out there. Let's see if we can't come to an agreement, and let's try to move forward.
I do actually have some concerns. I'm for automated waste collection, but I do have some concerns with the 3-letter, whatever we're calling it today.
I do too. I have some questions, but I'd rather hear what they have to say first.
Who would like to start?
Does anyone have an opinion?
Not right now.
Arlene, do you have an opinion?
I'm just for it. I don't
Okay.
have any issues.
And as an IFP for trash collection, I am not opposed to it. So I would like to propose that the Board of Health take a vote tonight to support the IFP as presented and amended, because we did amend it, correct?
That's my, yeah, I have the final one here.
I'd like to ask the members of the Board of Health who are present and I want to make sure I word this correctly because I made a mistake the first time. I'd like to say this, that I would like to propose the board take a vote in approval of the IFP as presented by the town manager and amended. And a yes or no vote of approval. Terry, is that?
Yeah, and I just, at the meeting that we had, and perhaps everyone, forgot this part of it, when we get the RFPs back, I was going to come back to a meeting with the Board of Health, and we were going to review the RFPs together in open session after the RFPs come back. So I want that to be known, that it's not, I'm not going to sit in my office and make this decision without including you in the process of that decision as well.
So I have a proposal.
I'll second that.
There's a proposed and second. Jerry?
Nay.
Arlene?
Yes.
Bob, yes. 2-1 vote. The Board of Health has voted to approve the IFP as proposed and amended to go forward for the town of Abington.
And I want to thank the board. I know it's a difficult decision. Change is not easy. There's going to be a lot of issues that we're going to have to address. And the reason why this is important to me is I want to try to get people to be inclusive in the process. And I will do the best I can to make sure that this program is a good program for the town and one that everyone can be proud of. And I think in a year from now, when you come back and you look at the savings and you understand what we're doing and people's response to it, I think that you're going to be proud that you made this decision, because I think it's a good decision.
Do you have any questions, Andy?
I have some questions on
Okay.
the proposal. You said a second barrel for trash can be purchased? Do
Yes.
you know what the cost of that will be?
We will figure that out once the bids come in for tonnage, because we
Do you have an
ante-
average of other towns, what they charge per barrel for an barrel?
I think it's somewhere around $80 to $90 for the sticker.
For the year?
Yeah, and I think it will go down from there, because I think the first year is the purchase of the barrel plus the sticker, and then the second year and every year thereafter, it's the cost of the disposal. And once you go, I'll answer as many questions as I can.
Yeah.
But then I want to go through, in comparison to the contract we had and the one that we're going to propose here through the IFB.
How about on a two-family and a three-family residence?
They'll have
Does each family get one barrel and one barrel, or?
Right, and there will be a number on the barrel. It's going to have maybe a 10-digit number. That number is going to coincide with an assignment to that address. So Mr. Franey's address of whatever is going to have a number for the recycling barrel and a number for the waste
The
barrel.
waste barrel. But each particular resident in a two or three family would have their own two barrels. It wouldn't be just one barrel for the entire property, or would it?
No, it's going to be for each unit. We have a number of 109s, which are multi-family configurations on one property. And so what we're going to do, you may have a two-family and a one-family on a particular property. The two-family will get two 64-gallon containers for trash and two 64-gallon containers for recycling. And the one family will get one barrel, for a 64-gallon barrel for trash and one for recycling.
It's unlimited recycling, correct?
You can actually request at any point in time a 96-gallon container. In the contract and in the RFP, it requires the contractor to repair or replace barrels at no charge.
But the
the
recycling
town.
itself is unlimited. You can, if you
Yeah.
had,
It will continue to be a single-stream recycling.
Single
which means you
stream.
can Put anything in that barrel.
Yeah.
You don't have to separate the glass and the plastic,
No.
and move in the middle.
No.
Ken Coyle worked very diligently the last.
that's what I,
That's the question he's asking.
right, if the barrel can't hold, the recycle barrel can't hold enough for one family, do they get a second recycle?
Oh, yes, they can get a second,
With no cost?
yes.
If you know, and I don't know if you do know, how many companies do this sort of service? How many companies would be out there eligible to bid on this sort of?
In this area, there are 5 companies that can bid automated curbside collection. Covanta, I think, is one of them. Waste Solutions, I don't have them off the top of my head. Waste Solutions,
Russell?
True.
who?
Troop?
Waste Solutions,
Yep.
Allied Waste, and I think BFI.
BFI, right, Allied Waste. Waste Solution is not, unless they, and you know what? They could actually become a bidder if they wanted to invest in the capital outlay for that. So any waste hauler today who does not have automation in their fleet can make an investment and purchase the trucks to do it. So it's not restrictive from that perspective. We do require in the RFP that the trucks be of a certain age and condition, and they have to have call numbers on it, and the trucks have to be numbered.
I saw that.
I don't know if you've read the RFP
I have.
or seen any of it, but it's quite extensive as to a lot of the changes that we'd like to see.
Just to go back to the question Terry asked or raised, what are the costs per barrel? Do you have?
They're not $96 or whatever the cost was. The last time I checked, I think did Balboni tell us what he thought?
I thought they were like around 55, but I was gonna mention about the grant that I was gonna try to get through.
Well, we would be eligible for the grant, and we would apply for the grant that would reduce that by $10.
Mine was 73 for my recycled, 64-gallon recycler, and that's commercial.
How
You know,
much?
To buy it
How
at
much was
Lowe's,
it,
it was
Howard?
$73.
73?
Yeah.
I thought he said it was somewhere around 50-something.
Yeah, 52, 53. It's going to depend upon who the hauler is and, you know, those issues will need to be worked out.
Who pays for those barrels
It's going to come out of the savings from the
up front,
trash contract.
all in the first year?
Yeah.
So it's a one lump sum, we're paying for these barrels in the first year.
That's our plan, that's correct.
That's $436,000 for the first year alone for barrels alone, correct?
I don't know what that cost is.
105 times 4,200, do a rough number.
Sue.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get that number.
You can get all that information, run all the questions through me, that's how it
Thank
works.
you, sorry,
Okay?
Mr. Chair.
And then, any information that you don't get tonight, we're gonna get it all for you,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Well, that's actually what I was
Thank you.
trying to get to, was that, so it's $110 for 2 barrels at 4,200 per, 4,200 households, right?
That was my quote. And
It's
it came up at
not 4,200
$436,000.
households. It's 4,200 households if you include the 208 condos,
All right,
so it's
4,000
4,016 units of housing.
times 110 is...
Times 110.
Two barrels at $55 a
Right,
barrel.
again, I'm not, until we go out to bid and understand what the
I know,
barrel
I'm just
cost is
saying-
going to be, we're speculating.
I understand that, but I just want to be aware that there could be a substantial output here.
Mhm.
And not that I'm opposed, I think it's a great idea, but it's
Mm-hmm.
a cost that we have to consider, so. That's all I have for right now.
Does anybody have anything else? Ken?
The last time the Board of Health went to bid, one of the haulers, in their bid, they included in their bid 2 free barrels for each household.
Mhm.
So would that be something that we want to maybe change the IFB to include wording that the hauler would include barrels, just to see how that measures up? It might be cheaper, or even a separate category. I know we're gonna have leaf pickup and all that, and Christmas tree pickup. Maybe put a category, what would you charge us for a barrel?
That's a good idea.
You know, that possibly we could get, buying in bulk, some of these people would get a good deal. But I do know that one of the haulers, and they were in the ballpark. I think, Bob, I think you were on the board. One of the haulers was Troop, exactly. I think they wanted to, well, I guess we could talk about this. They're an Abington company, and they wanted to get Abington, and they gave us a great deal, and they just barely missed out on the bid. And they would have provided 2 barrels. So
And
that's
of
just-
course, you know, like, I don't know who the haulers are around here, but, you know, if they bid where we don't have to pay for the barrels, then it's a more advantageous bid to us than if we had to pay for them.
Another question is, it refers in the document to small business getting picked up, and I didn't think we picked up any small business.
No.
We would want to eliminate that.
Did you-
It's in a couple categories, actually. It's in 4D, and it's before that, too. I think it's all in the automated cart section, so.
It's in what areas of the?
It's in 4D.
Collection times? Is that what it says? 4D?
Yes, no
Yeah.
collection from residential or small businesses shall be made, but it's also referred to before that at some other point. I think it was.
Is it anywhere else, Ken?
Yes. I think it's in the automated carts. They're gonna provide an automated cart for both. Yes. Automated carts shall be distributed by the contractor to each eligible residential unit and participating small business.
I'm sorry, what area, what,
Under I,
Page 7.
1E, definitions, automated cart definition.
Page 7, John.
okay.
So that could open up a whole can of worms if we start, because we actually, I think we got rid of a lot of the businesses in town. The few that did had mixed use, we eliminated those in our last trash contract.
With the last contract?
Any mixed use was no longer, the business in the mixed use was no longer picked up.
Prior to the previous contract, if you had a laundromat in a residential residence, all that trash went out in our trash. We changed that in our last contract so that we forced the business to collect their own trash. Go get their own dump, so that the residential owner would only be responsible for trash and that the business would be responsible for their trash separately, so they weren't putting in our tonnage. Yeah. I apologize, when we redid the regs back in January, that was one of the things that we made sure we clarified and separated, because we found a lot of business was putting a ton of trash out.
You're right, it wasn't in the contract, it was in the reg.
Correct, that's why I corrected myself.
Okay, so is it in here that you're saying that we need to remove something? I can't
Well,
hear
we don't pick,
you that well.
we don't pick up its small businesses now.
That's correct.
Right, so we want to eliminate it from the IFP.
Okay.
It's under the definitions of automated carts, and it's also in
Is it anywhere else?
4D, and that's the only two places I saw
Yeah.
it.
I think I dealt with it in 4D.
And maybe the consultant can look back at it. Other questions I had were, we had an issue that we were concerned where our trash was being brought to. I don't know if you remember, you had a meeting with the Board of Health. I think I was still on the Board of Health at the time. We didn't think we were getting the best deal, so we asked the hauler to bring it to somewhere else. Do we have that, it doesn't appear by reading this that we had that option. Do you know what I mean? Like suppose the hauler comes in and says, I'm gonna get rid of it for $75 a ton, and it's in the bid. And someone comes up to us a year later and says, we can get rid of it for $65 a ton. Do we have the option?
Yeah, we determine where it goes in this RFP.
Okay, because I didn't see that.
It's in here. Yes, it is.
Let me see.
The contractor shall provide the town in writing with information on the disposal facilities where solid waste is taken. The contractor shall notify the town in writing of any changes in the disposal locations. That's all I see on page 19.
If you look at disposal facility,
In definitions?
What page is that, John?
8.
I know it's in here. Okay. Solid waste collection, town shall provide the collection of municipal solid waste from all participating residents within the town of compliance with all applicable bylaws as determined by, actually, it should be the Board of Health.
I just wouldn't want to run into that same issue we had before, where we're able to get a better price, but we're not able to implement it.
Well, what, we're not looking, this RFP can be bid in a number of different ways, in the sense that the hauler can be one, the facility can be another.
Mhm.
You may get a facility to bid just on disposal. And we have, in this RFP, according to council, the ability to determine ownership of the waste. The contractor shall receive title to all solid waste and recycled materials upon its collection at the curbside.
So he owns it.
While the town shall not be considered the generator of such waste for any purpose. Then it goes on to,
Recycling's different.
Yeah, recycling was
Yeah.
different. Recycling, that looked like the town was the owner of the recycling, and it looked like the
we're
contractor was the owner
also,
of
in this
the trash.
contract, we're also eligible to receive revenue from the recycling that's generated, which we don't,
That was my other question. I didn't see that in there anyway.
yeah. Sharon, where is that?
Trying to find it.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I may.
Go ahead, Sue,
I'm a wall.
and introduce yourself for the tape.
Susan Glenn, Chairman Manning, Chairman Aiello. I just have a couple of questions, but while you're looking for that, we have the option for disposal, and who determines that? Is it a day number? Is it an annual number? Is it a 5-year contract? When you say we're going to dispose at, you find a great rate, say at $63, and tomorrow it's $62. Who determines that and how, and the span of time? That's my question.
You're asking if somebody bids $50 a ton to for disposal, it's a 3-year contract, it'll be $50 a ton for 3 years. And if you look at the bid sheets, are the bid sheets in this document?
If you're locked in other words.
You could very well be locked in, yes.
That's the legality piece of it. So once you lock in with a contract with a disposal rate, you're locked in with that piece. So before you said, which was confusing to me, that you have the option to determine different rates. So are you going to go call up what's your gate rate today? Like a spot market?
No. Actually, what I was trying to say, maybe I confused everybody, was that any number of facilities can bid just on the disposal piece of it.
Correct. You can
And
go
so it could go to the Cape, for example, or it could go to Braintree, or it could go, whoever bids on it.
Right.
And if, for example, the way this is structured, the hauler wants to dispose of it, because he's gonna have it in his trucks, and he wants to control where that's gonna go, he's gonna probably provide a more competitive disposal cost, because Covanta or somebody else could come in and bid $49 a ton, or whatever. I think tonnage is gonna come in somewhere between $70 to $72 a ton under this structure, which is about $8 less than what we're currently paying now.
Okay, so the second part of the question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, given the time frame, the February 9th time frame that you put on the table, and returning on the February 23rd, wouldn't it behoove all of you at this point to put everything out there, including the option to not have automated? And if you got the automated numbers with this RFP and open on March 1st, and they're terrific, then wonderful. But say it's not what you quite got, and you're up a little percentage, why not have the option? Because now it's April. So if you throw everything out, and it comes back, your time frame is just so short. That's the only concern that I really have here. I'm all for automated and improving and reducing and the money, but the time frame we have here now is very concerning. So why wouldn't it behoove you to throw it all out there and see what you get back? That's my point. Thank you.
To do the method that we're doing right now?
No,
Not
actually,
just automated,
No.
order.
curbside.
Curbside.
So if automated's higher than what you're expecting, you use that curbside fallback home without having to go all the way back out to bid, then have nowhere to put your trash.
Well, let me just say, and I think this is where the rub comes in, and I think that this is the issue. When we talked to Balboni, who was not hired, but with a grant from,
He's well known in the business.
yeah, and he said that you can't do it both ways. He said it's either one or the other.
Really?
Because you're bidding on a 64-gallon container. If you do curbside collection under the traditional method that we're using right now, an individual can't pick up a 64-gallon container.
But the automated would bid on a 64-gallon container, the curbside would bid on curbside pickup, and then you would have.
So you'd have two different RFPs.
Excellent.
Yeah, but you can look at both of them.
No, I mean, it's never been done that way.
We've never done automated pickup before.
Well, automated pickup is done in a number of communities, and that's how they bid it out.
Sorry about the timeframe for that.
Well, I know what the time frame is, that's why you know what, it's probably better just to leave it the way it is. Everyone likes the current method at curbside, spend the money. I mean, you know, it's.
No, that's
John,
not-
John.
That's not.
You know-
They just took a vote to support the RFP.
You know, there's a reason why this issue is an issue. In most communities where you know that it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked in the past, and the numbers don't prove out that your tonnage is gonna be reduced by 2,000 tons, don't go back to the curbside method. If Waste Solution wants to bid on it, then let them go out and invest in an automated trash collection method. It's either we're gonna do, and this is the issue, we're either gonna do automated or we're gonna do what we're doing currently. You're not gonna, you can't compare apples to oranges and figure that you're going to, I don't understand why, at the time, you didn't award it to the local vendor from Abington who was gonna give you free trash barrels. That was an absolutely phenomenal deal. I
Mr. Chairman,
have
I can answer
absolutely
that
no
question.
idea why that wasn't done.
I can answer that question. It's because they were gonna charge us for recycling, it would not be free recycling.
Oh, well, then I wouldn't do that deal.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? Kenny, go ahead.
I got a couple more things on this. In 3C, it talks about community outreach and what we ask, and that's what we do now, I think. They do a year mailing. This talks about a quarterly mailing.
That's correct.
I would think the cost for it, wouldn't it be better just to have, I mean, yeah, it's great to communicate with every household in Abington as often as possible, but the cost for that would be, I mean, it was gonna drive the cost of the contract up, I would think. So, I mean, maybe you might just stick with the yearly mailing, or maybe even have a website written.
Well, you know, maybe in the first year of the contract, you know, because it's a new program, it's a new service, it might be better for us to do that more often. I mean, those are things that we can negotiate once we get to the selected contractor.
I understand, I just wanted,
And I think we've done that before, at least this town has done it, and others towns, where you get a bid in and, you know, the contractor would say, hey, look, twice a year is better than quarterly. You know, so we would adjust that based on feedback from whoever the entity was that we decided to go with.
I've got two other small things to bring up in the contract. A lot of local towns are going with Recycle Bank, which increases recycling in the communities. There's a little tag on the dumpster, on the toter, and when it gets flipped, it measures it. And consumers, the households get benefits, whether it be coupons or free goods. And I think there's a slight cost for that.
Would Trookies like to participate in that?
I'm not saying, I've already got in trouble enough by mentioning Trookies, so. But that might be an option that we could throw in there. We would look more favorably to a hauler that uses Recycle Bank, that sort of thing. It's really a neat program, so if you want to look into that. And the other thing too is we talk about, I think in the contract it says they want the residents to call the hauler if they have a bulky item. Is that to make an appointment to pick up the bulky item? Maybe it would be better if we just had one day of the week where they pick up bulky items. I know Dedham uses Fridays. Fridays, if you want to get rid of a bulky item, you put it out with a sticker on it, it will get picked up. It would save a lot on the hauler. You know, they wouldn't have to field phone calls all the time. Maybe even not an appointment. You buy the sticker, and the trash people would call in, okay, there's a bulky item.
So
there's
they
a
don't,
bulky item
are you
there.
saying that they don't call in to say, hey, I bought a sticker? See, the hauler will pick it up once a month anyway, and when they call to make an appointment, what they're actually doing is calling, saying they bought a sticker, and the hauler will tell them, the week of February 24th, have it out there, we're picking up white goods that week.
Okay, if it's the same thing, my understanding, I misunderstood, I just thought, I got a bulky item, yeah, come pick it up, but if they make an appointment, then that would be the same thing, just say every Friday.
What I'd like to do with bulky items, if we ever get the opportunity, is to have another contract at the recycling center or somewhere where if residents don't want to pay for the sticker cost of that recycled item. They could haul it up to a recycling area and get it done and dispose of it that way. So it gives residents a choice. Right now, there isn't a choice. It's either curbside or not, but at some point, we'd like to do that.
I don't know what the board is favorable to a motion or
I
something.
did have a couple more things.
Mm-hmm.
Number of places in the IFP and the contract, it references Director of Public Works.
It's going to be changed to
Who was gonna be
Board of
that
Health.
person? Who was it?
the Board of Health.
Board of Health. And then in the contract itself, on paragraph 2,
Paragraph, is
I
it
think,
work, is it?
yeah, I don't think that's in conformance with the IFP, so I think you need to check that language, because it talks about weekly collection of bulk, burnable
Alternating
bulk
week
items,
collection.
alternating week collection of single-stream recyclable materials. I'm talking about the contract itself, not in the,
I'm looking at that.
Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2 is just a little, probably lifted from another.
right, paragraph 2 where it says the work.
Yep, I see it.
The work consists of.
Single stream, the first
The work
sentence,
consists of the collection and removal of solid waste and
Weekly
alternating
collection
week
of-
collection and processing of single-stream recycling.
burnable bulk items.
But it talks about alternating week collection of single-stream recyclable material.
Which some towns do. But
Well,
According to
we
the
wanna-
IFP, it's gonna be every week, right? Single-stream recycling is a pickup every week?
yes, it's going to be.
Okay, so that doesn't say that, it says alternating weeks.
he also talks about
Weekly
CIT
collection.
collections, which
Right.
would not.
I think you just need to take a look at that, John, to make sure it's in compliance with the IFP, because I think it was, like Kenny said, maybe been left.
Yeah, I'll have, council looked at this, but I'm going to have them look at it
You need to
again.
look at it again then.
Yeah, make sure we don't get charged again.
That's all I have.
Anything else from anybody? Okay.
Did we find any of that stuff, Sharon?
No, I think we're gonna have to add it in. Can't find it.
Well, it
Let me
was
ask you a
in here.
question. Is it prudent to allow for more input or more dissection of this particular document to either forward to them or if you guys have another meeting before the RFP goes out?
Well, they voted to support it.
No, I understand that. I understand that, but
amended.
right now, it seems like we're going through this document
And that's
coming up
fine.
with good questions. It seems like we very easily could have missed something, so instead of just sitting here and going through the whole thing, should we either, have another meeting or the Board of Health or whatever? If you have any concerns or you want to just let it go with these questions, that's fine, just a suggestion.
Well, I'm satisfied, I went through it, I'm satisfied with
All right.
it, but if these folks want to go through it one more time and have some more input,
It seems like when you were talking before, you had some questions, I don't know if.
They voted to support it.
I know they voted to support it, I understand that. I don't know if there was any reluctance on their part, because it seems like they did raise some questions. I know they voted to support it, I'm just saying, those questions were answered, that's fine. They weren't, that's all.
They might find it an omission, like we found a couple things here tonight, so, I would suggest, if it's agreeable to everyone, that the members of the Board of Health take a look at the document as proposed and amended, and see if they have anything that they would like to see changed or a problem with it, and maybe pass it on through the chairman to the town manager,
or through the health agent.
through the health agent.
And he
He's
can,
involved.
That's fine.
Either
and he
way.
can have council,
That's fine,
look it over.
if you'd be amenable to that.
And we definitely need to add in the thing about the costs back to us, for like the paper. And also as far as ownership of the, where it's gonna go. I can't find it in here.
It's in here, and I just read it before the meeting.
And then if I might suggestion, Kenny's suggestion, if the hauler supplies the barrels, who owns them at the end of the contract?
Or even buying them.
No,
to give them.
the town owns them.
Well, I mean, is it
The
written?
town owns the barrel.
If we buy them, we own the barrel, but if the contractor supplies them, there was a suggestion made to put it out there that the contractor might supply them.
Oh, no, if somebody decides that they're gonna give us the barrels,
Yeah.
it's under the condition that the town,
That the town
Okay,
owns.
upon
fine, that's
receipt,
fine.
owns the barrels. We're not, contractor's not gonna take them away once we have.
Oh, you don't know,
No, I know.
Stranger things have happened.
When you look under, I just had it. It does say weekly collection, even though it doesn't say it in the contract.
Yeah, the IFP says weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the contract doesn't.
Any public comment?
Just one last question, please. John, could you tell me how you achieved the $2,000 reduction, please, Mr. Chairman?
$2,000?
Tons?
2,000 ton.
Yes, please.
The 2,000 ton is based on the Mansfield.
No, in Abington, please.
Well, we don't have a reduction in tonnage in Abington.
Okay, what was the formula used in Mansfield?
The formula that was used it wasn't a formula at all, it was actual tonnage reduction. There was no formula used, it was 1 year's program experience
Okay, so 1
from
year of trash.
a similar town, a little bit larger,
Yeah.
20, at the time the program was in place, it was 19,000. So you're at 16.
Correct.
So their tonnage number reduction was 2,000 tons.
Okay, so,
Actual tonnage reduction when the program was implemented, so there's no formula that's used.
actually, there is a formula how to achieve your reduction.
Well, I'm just telling you where we got the number from. We anticipate that tonnage number would be similar here, because we're running the same type of program, 64-gallon container for trash and a 64-gallon container for recycling.
So to get the reduction in your recycle rate,
So what's the formula that you use?
trash plus recycling added together, divided by your recycling rate, gives Abington a 23% recycling rate as of today.
Would you want to know what the recycling rate is in Mansfield today?
Go ahead.
I think it's about 58 to
The
61%.
DEP site said 35.
I don't think that's right,
Well, I was posted today.
yeah.
I was on the
I-
site today. So that's the formula used for the recycling rate. So you want to increase recycling in Abington to 60%?
Well, I'm saying that I think that the Mansfield recycling numbers are higher than what's on the DEP site. I don't know what they're reporting to DEP.
You have to report your tonnage, you have to report your trash and your recycling to them, and they formulate your recycle rate.
I'll check those numbers with Lee Azenura. You can call Lee.
I was asking the formula
Yeah.
used for Abington, because you're
I
saying
didn't-
Abington will
I didn't
decrease
use
by
I didn't
2,000
use a
tons.
formula for
Well,
Abington.
there is a formula, so I was just wondering if you were aware of the formula.
No, I used, like I said, I used the actual numbers that other communities have, and Mansfield has achieved. And you're saying that we won't realize that kind of reduction?
Well, if our tonnage for trash is 4,000.
Your tonnage for trash is
190,
your trash for tonnage is, we just calculated that number at 6,712.37 tons
For trash?
for everything.
No, it's 5,468. That includes your recycling at 1,278. Your recycling at the end of 2011 was 1,278 tons.
We just calculated that number,
Last week.
actual, the bills that we received for tonnage from the vendor.
Yeah, one solution.
So you're telling me you have a total tonnage rate of over 6,000 tons in Abington? That's what you're saying right now, as of today, as of
We'll check, we'll check,
2011?
we'll check, no, as of today, as of last month. We'll,
You
we'll,
have to do it like calendar year.
we'll check those numbers.
Yes, that'd be great. So what you're telling me is that our trash would only be 3,500 tons a year now in Abington? That's the kicker. That's the numbers I'm having a tough time figuring out.
Well, that's what we're proposing, so we'll see, one way or another. But right now, our tonnage numbers are high. They're higher than most other communities of its size. And I don't know what's going on as to why they're as high as they are. But you know, tonnage numbers increase and they fluctuate because of weather conditions. And if it's raining, the tonnage is going to be higher. And you don't have a method currently to put covers, permanent covers on those barrels, do you?
The covers don't faze me as much as the actual tonnage and the formula, because you just keep saying the 2,000, and that was the number I was sticking with, and I don't understand how you derive it at a 19,000 community and a 16,000 community. That's 3,000 people at 1.25 tons a year. That's a big difference. If you find a community with maybe 15, 16, 17,000, and you said 1,300 tons a year, that would be more palatable than the 2,000 that you're saying, if that's a little high.
Well, it may be a little high. I'm not using a formula, I'm using the actual numbers that Mansfield realized as a community. But even if you said 1,300 to 1,500, that may be more plausible. I don't know, but it's still a savings in tonnage.
Oh, no question.
And I guess is there another methodology that's going to save us that kind of tonnage out there that you know?
I just want to make sure that.
But I mean, do you know of another methodology of collection at curbside that'll save you 1,200 to 1,500 tons? Well, pay-as-you-throw is not an option.
Right.
So what other option is out there that will save you between 1,200 to 1,500 tons using your numbers? Listen, don't use mine, we'll use yours.
You just go up for bid, but have a lesser disposal rate, tipping rate.
Well, tipping rate is going to also be included in this new rate anyway.
Right, but if you are paying $80 a ton now, and you get this super turbo rate at $72 a ton, there's your savings right there. So that's why I'm asking you, why you're not throwing this other RFP out there with this?
Because you're on Sage, and you know that the environment is very important. And if you know, and you know as well as I do, that the percentage of recycling is not sufficient, we need to increase that.
Yes.
And I'd like to get it, well, what's the state average? What is the state requiring us for tipping, for recycling tonnage?
In that program, you never see more than 40. You really don't. You really don't.
Okay, so then.
If we're 23% now and we achieve 35, that would be amazing.
Okay.
It's 10%. I think we can do that. If you get your ton.
Do you think you can do it under the current program?
Well, I have no issues for you going out to bid.
Or can we do it under the current program?
Yes.
Well, then, how come you haven't achieved it now?
Because it takes time and education and outreach and the fact that we just implemented this new program in 1 year.
It requires people to be forced to do it in order to achieve those higher numbers.
Which, take it down one more time. I'm just asking you how you.
Take it down.
Actually, Sue, that's what he's doing, taking it down.
Exactly, but the initial question was the 2,000 tons. That's the question.
And I told you where I got that tonnage from?
Exactly.
Okay, but if, no, you don't have Abington applicable numbers now for this program, other than using a formula, until you actually have the tonnage. So when the tonnage comes in, you'll know what the actual savings is. And it can all be a formula, or it can be your best guess. Some communities have achieved a greater savings than perhaps Abington will. But if you continue with the same program you're using, which seems to be something you're supporting,
I didn't
then,
say that.
but
I did not say that.
okay, well then, I'll take that back. You are at least advocating we go out for a bid process on the current system.
Because you bring in more vendors. There's only so many people that can bid on what you're talking. 3 vendors out there that will bid on this automation right now. To get the gene pool and what you're looking for on the figures in a small period of time and get everything down, you should be sending 2 different kinds of bids out. That was my thing. I think you're limiting
If you want-
yourself.
hey,
You're limiting yourself if you do it this way. I'm all for it. I want to decrease it. That's not the issue. You need to.
Then what is the issue?
Reach out to different methodologies.
Let me ask this, if we went out to bid, we got, I thought it was 5, somebody said 5, at least 5. 5 people who would be able to bid on this, so even taking your point, 3. 3 came in and nobody looked as though it was gonna save us any money. I don't think that's gonna preclude us from going out at that point in time and sticking with the same system. if we needed to.
You don't rebid it if you get high numbers?
Or we could
or
just,
do rebid
we could
it?
extend the current contract for another year if we had to.
So it's not-
If time was
It's not like we're
wasting.
not gonna be able to get our trash picked up if we don't get
Then
this
maybe-
You can
system.
always
closed.
extend.
And maybe in the meantime, we'll get a bid for a cheaper rate, because that's one of the bid items, a cheaper ton.
So it's not like we're not gonna be able to get things done.
But under the, under
So
the,
I think the prudent way to do it is what John's doing. Let's see what we get. Put this out and see what we get. And if it comes in, great, great. If not, then we'll have to make a decision at that point in time. But
And then revisit it and put it out again?
that's,
That's-
it's up to the Board of Health and John and,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, good, no, I just want, these are the
That's my
questions-
thought.
These are just the questions that I had, so thank you for answering them.
I will say eliminating the condos is gonna save about 312 tons, so there's some of your battle right there.
I did.
and,
Jan has a
Yeah.
question.
Uh-oh, do you live in a condo?
Jan?
She does.
Hold it, John?
Go ahead, Jamie.
I arrived late, I apologize for that, had to take care of trivia first. My main concern is, and I don't know if I missed anything at the beginning, is the condos. We are one of the grandfathered ones, but we only came on board in 2006 because we never knew anything about it prior to that. And Waste Solutions has us, we don't do single stream recycling. We've got paper, mixed paper, we've got glass cans and plastic, we have to separate it. Don't know why. But I want to know how, if we're eliminating the condos, why? If you're talking about picking up single, 2, 3, 4 family, I would say a majority of those in town are rentals. A lot of condominiums, and in my case, I was 16, 14 are owners paying taxes in town. So if you're talking about picking up others, I want to know why the condos fall in such a dead zone. We've got 4,000 families and 200 are grandfathered as condos, and there's 700 some odd altogether. So
We talked about that before you came in, Jan.
Right.
John can answer that question.
yeah, the issue for us is that under the method system, the automated method system that we have, the condos don't receive all of the town services to begin with. We don't plow any road in any of the condos because the condos were built in a way that allowed the developer, whoever at the time that built these condos, not to conform to the standards for road width according to municipal standards. So I'm not going to say they were built for less money than if those roads were built to standards for public ways. There's an issue for a public contract picking up or delivering a service across private roads. I don't know if that is something that we should be doing from a liability perspective. But beyond that, if we have 703 condos in town, either we pick up all of those units or we pick up none of those units. But to pick up 208 of the 703 is not fair to the majority of condo owners who don't receive that service. And so what we had proposed to do is to sit down with the successful bidder and negotiate for all of the condos collectively a lower cost per fee, or per tonnage fee than you're currently paying, or you're not paying anything. Well, you are, but maybe that is something that would be included in negotiated price. I don't know. But until we move in that direction, we'll never know what the potential is for condos. But in speaking with Mark Rich, from who is our town council, the problem with doing it this way is that potentially there could be a lawsuit filed against the town that discriminates in the delivery of public services to the balance of condo units in town. So there's an issue there that we have to guard against as far as the potential for some sort of a legal challenge for picking up the 203 and not the total 208 and not the total 703.
my concern too, along with that, is if you are unable to negotiate a good rate for the condos, you're going to force condos to have to supply their own trash pickup, recycling. And, I mean, just alone, I went out to get some pricing, and I was only able to get one back. But for us to rent a 6-yard dumpster and get 4 96-gallon recycle totes, it's over $300 a month, which for our condominium complex works out to be $19. You know, your condo fee would have to increase per month. So you're going to end up with condos making a decision not to recycle and just have trash pickup.
But,
So
right.
you're going against, I'm just saying, you're going against what the whole purpose of this is to encourage people to recycle. I think you're going to find out some places going to say, the heck with it, I'll just rent a dumpster, they can throw everything in it, we won't bother recycling. So
But if we
it's
could,
just a thought.
yeah, but if we could work out something with, I mean, let's look at the positive end of it. Let's look at the glass being half full rather than half empty. And let's look at it by indicating we can work out a deal, and maybe we can do 2 dumpsters, one for recycling and one for trash. I don't know if that would be an option unless we engage that process. So, you know, it would be something that we would work on. Is it a lot more work, you know, for me? Yeah, it is. But I'm willing to do it because I believe in the program and I believe in the service. And I think that we need to do what is equitable and fair for everybody, and not just, I don't know why there were these certain condos that were grandfathered in and others that were not. It doesn't seem like it's a fair and equitable process.
I more than understand that. I had no idea why. I mean, I just came across it in 2006. So we hadn't been picked up since 91 or anything like that. We've been paying all along.
Right.
But, you know, I already had to get my budget out for this year for our condominium, and so now I'm kind of like, uh-oh, July 1st, we're in big trouble. So
Well, I don't.
know what's going on, and I
Right.
can all single, you know, multiple, 3, 4, 5 family, are they all going to be able to bring their stuff to curbside?
No.
Three
Three
It stops at
No,
3.
are they going to be able to bring their stuff to curbside?
No.
They're-
No, I think 4 family and up is going to be required to get their own dumpster, is that correct?
Yes.
That's the way it is now.
Currently is now.
But that's the
So
way,
even if there's a 3-family, are they going to be able to put their barrels at the curb?
I believe
Yeah,
so.
they have to.
Three family and less.
they will, each unit, each floor or each unit would get,
Oh, no, I understand.
A barrel
that, but I'm
each.
saying, you know, the dwellings, is it going to be curbside? Because for us, even if it was, it would be impossible for us to get 32 containers put out in the street. It would line up all of Cleveland Street.
well, and see, the automated collection process requires them to be picked up at curbside. And the issue that we struggled with, that the Board of Health was looking at, and they were struggling with this whole issue about the 208 units. We are putting a restriction on 4,016 housing units in town by indicating you get a 64-gallon container for both trash and recycling. In the condo scenario, we can't pick each individual barrel up at curbside. So there may be a unit or 2 or 3 or 4 or a number of different units that may be dumping more than what is available in a 64-gallon container. That is quite possible. And so the rules and regulations would apply differently, which is also an issue from the standpoint of picking up condos under this method. And even with the restrictions you currently have with 3 barrels, conceivably, because of the way it is picked up, one condo unit can be disposing of 5 barrels worth of trash in a dumpster, as opposed to the restrictions that exist on the 4,016 units of housing where they only have 3 barrels. So there is that level of inequity between condos and residential units. And the reason why the 1 through 3 units was chosen was most of those units are accessible by public way, on a public way, where the street is wide enough for cars to pass by, while the mechanical arm in the truck, which is wider, and a little bit bigger, is disposing of the barrels using the mechanical arm.
If all of this process goes through, how much notice?
Well, we'll know by March 1st, so what I would do, and then there's a process that I'd like to follow, which is a couple of public outreach education sessions with the contractor, with the residents, how to fill the barrel, what goes into what barrels, where to put them at curbside, how many feet apart they need to be. And I would also like to, right, but I would also at that point want to sit down with the condo association and the vendor to see if we can work out a not barrel, but per container cost for disposal, for all of them.
So will this eliminate dumpsters completely?
I don't know. It's going to depend upon what the...
Because I have no place to store 32 barrels, you know.
Well, and that may be true not only for your condo, but for association, for others as well. So, I mean, but my commitment that night at the Board of Health was that I am going to sit with the condo association and work that out to a satisfactory conclusion between the vendor and the condo association. Whatever it takes, we're gonna work that out to a resolution.
So we need to be stepping up advance notice prior to July 1st of whatever changes.
Oh, you'll receive something by the middle of March as to a meeting either at the condo associations, one area, or the individual condo unit associations themselves. However they want to work it, I will try to be as flexible as I can.
Henry?
Yeah, just a brief follow-up question on Mrs. Brennan's questions earlier. The 2,000-ton savings that you saw in Mansfield, that you've talked about a number of times, I guess my question is, what were the conditions or what was the state-of-the-art in Mansfield prior to this being implemented? And I ask the question because I know this board and the town has made tremendous strides over the last few years, raising that number, reducing the number, raising the amount of recycling. So were there similar conditions then, or were they in worse shape before that? Or
It was exactly the same situation. They had unlimited curbside collection in Mansfield, and we went to a 3-barrel limit. We went to single-stream recycling after, when we went to this reduction in barrels, we went to single-stream recycling.
So even though it was a number of years ago, you would make those same strides that we're seeing today here and now. So you're starting from essentially a similar starting point?
Yes, yeah, and what we also had, which is very similar too, is we had a commuter rail station, very similar to what you have here. And the area communities, Norton, Attleboro, and some of the other communities had a restricted barrel limit when we didn't. And so when we went to a restricted barrel limit, we saw a reduction immediately because we believed that there was a certain amount of outside tonnage from commuters coming in, because it was a lot easier if I'm going to Mansfield to take my trash and just dump it at somebody's curbside because it was unlimited, collection. So what we were doing as taxpayers in Mansfield, we're paying for outside waste to dispose of that waste. And I would imagine a certain amount of that was happening here, but we ended up having the same problem in Mansfield, which was that our tonnage numbers were still not stabilized because we were still using the barrel limit. You had your own barrel, and if the lid blew off and you didn't have a lid, you just put the barrel out. And if it rained, the tonnage would be up. If it didn't rain, the tonnage would be down. And what we found out when we went into the lid that we have on the 2-barrel limit now was that the numbers were very similar from month to month. What this proposal tries to do is to take that number and make it the same number, across the board. So they're going to dispose of this for a flat fee, regardless of what the tonnage numbers are. And we're hoping that that will help us from a budgetary perspective, because as you know, when you're looking at budgeting on a tonnage basis and your tonnage goes up 200 tons and down 200, by the end of the year, you might be short or you might have a surplus, but you don't know until the last month of collection. This way, it's going to be spread out over an even period of time with an even dollar number.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Kenny?
I'd like to make a motion that we follow the Board of Health lead and endorse town manager's automated waste collection, IFB. I'm not going to say as written because there will be some changes, but maybe endorse your final.
As amended, as finally amended and sent out?
Yep.
Almost a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Do we, I guess we're good for now? Any
Motion to
other?
adjourn?
Hey, I'd just like to thank the Board of Health for taking the time to attend tonight.
I would too.
No, it wasn't a comfortable meeting for you or us, but I think we worked through a lot of problems. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for inviting us to your meeting.
Yeah.
It's true, I'm glad. I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
The board meeting is closed.